and welcome to the Inside Track. I'm Ryan Dekker, and this is
Yetta Dekker,
and we make part of the
Dekker Team. So the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team is a show that we started several years ago now, quite a few years ago, and there are a couple hundred, probably about 250 archived shows. So if the topic we're covering today isn't the one that excites you,
Of course it's going to excite them.
well, what if it isn't?
Well, it is.
Okay, well, let's hope it is. And if you want more information, even if this show does excite you, so I'll give Ryan a point.
Sweet.
Okay, then there are still lots of other shows with lots of topics related to everything to do with home ownership. Not only how to sell your home or how to get the most money when you sell your home and what to do to prepare your home and what you have to look for when you're buying a home. It's actually everything to do with home ownership. Mm-hmm. Right? Even if you're renting, I would suggest that many of the shows have insightful living in a home tips.
Well, there's shows on investing, there's shows on buying properties, there's shows on what to look for in a realtor. Everything to do with real estate is wrapped up into these shows.
And everything to do with owning a home. Mm-hmm. So electrical, plumbing, septic, heating, air conditioning, interviews with all kinds of people. And then every so often, we get a really interesting guest or an interesting topic, whether we talk about the tiny home or whether we talk about the green initiatives, or whether we talk about homes that are accessible homes that are easier to navigate. So there is shows about just about everything. And if you're somebody that as you've been listening or watching, because these are archived at CHRI.ca as well as DekkerTeam.com, and they are video as well as audio. So if you're listening just on the radio, you could actually watch us, which sometimes...
Unless you're driving.
Yeah, if you're driving,
then
don't watch us.
Please
just don't. That would be better, right?
That would be better. Yeah.
That would be way better. If you're sitting at your computer, you could watch us.
That's right.
Right?
Yep.
And so you can find them there. And if you have been listening and you think that topic's not been covered, or it's not been covered the way I would cover it, or covered with the expertise that I bring to the table, reach out to us, because we are willing to engage with you, have a conversation, and then decide if you ought to be on air with us.
Yeah.
And then we'll invite you to our little studio, and we will record together, and you will get a copy of that you can utilize on your website if there's a particular service that aligns with it, or you can use just in general for your own personal use.
Awesome.
Right. So today's show, 7 ways to sell your home fast. Why is fast important?
Well, we did a show, and it was all about the 7 reasons why you want your home to sell fast.
Right.
And we talked about you'll get more money, you may get multiple offers, it'll be less stressful. There were 7 great reasons. So if you want to listen to that show, again, it's archived. And so for this show, we want to talk about how to sell fast.
Right.
And we'll be talking a little bit about things you should be doing and also about things that we do to assist in the sale and getting it done fast.
Right. So the first one we'll talk about, and when we do these lists, they're generally not in order of priority. Once in a while, we'll throw a priority, and on the last show, we did banter a fair bit about priority just because it was fun, and yet there really is nothing in the priority most of the time. There is often 1 or 2 reasons that are a little more poignant than the others, and yet they all have a compounded impact.
Yes.
Right? They all work together to create the end result. So getting your home sold fast, it's not just which one of these 7 things am I going to pick.
No, you need them.
We will benefit greatly from having all of them. Mm-hmm. So pictures.
Pictures are really important.
They are really important,
really important.
That was really brilliant.
Next one.
No. Let's talk a little bit about the why of pictures and the what of pictures.
Okay. So what should we be taking pictures of?
So if you weren't watching, you just winked at me a really bad wink. So I have to give you some commentary in case he does silly things.
So yeah, we want to take pictures of the home, the property, anything that makes the property more valuable. So it could be the near area or whatever it is. For properties that we may want to do development on, we'll want a picture of that possibility. So there's all sorts of things depending on the property that we want a picture of.
Right.
And the reason they're so important is the majority of buyers are buying online.
Well, they're not buying online.
Thank you. They're finding their properties online.
Yes.
To start.
At least initially.
Initially.
Yep.
They obviously come to the property and buy. However, if they don't like it online, they'll never come to the property.
That's right. So having professional photography, and actually I'm going to throw this in with it, is the videography. Mm-hmm. Right? Whether we're talking video or whether we're talking photography or the older style 360 virtual tours, because there's still some of those out there, whereas video really gives you a much broader view, a much better pan. So, because you can see what room comes from what room, and you just get more, and more is good. It does cause people to potentially disqualify themselves from coming to your home when we put great pictures out there and great videography. And what I would tell you is that if the pictures are going to disqualify the home for that particular person, so will an on-site visit.
Yes.
And then you have put your...
Unless the pictures are just not good, and then they may have been okay when they got there.
Right.
So we're talking about high quality pictures that show off the house properly, the home properly. If that disqualifies them, then they're not the right buyer.
Right.
However, if they're disqualified by the pictures because they're not good quality or they're not of the right things or they make the house seem smaller than it is, then...
Or significantly larger.
Yes,
we're actually
you gotta be
careful at how wide a lens we use because we want to get as much as a room as possible, and yet you don't want to distort it and you don't want to use a complete fisheye because then you create a room that looks like a palace.
Mm-hmm, and it doesn't exist.
And it's not there when they show up. So that will actually hurt. So the good quality, high quality, accurate pictures and videography will actually significantly help your home sell quickly because that's probably the first thing. We're so visually oriented that goes out there on the net and goes even from one person to another. So if there's a home that you've ever kind of thought, I wonder if that's the one for me, and you've seen the pictures, you've looked at the property online, I bet if you're like many of our clients, you send it to a few other people and get their opinion and their perspective. And if the pictures aren't great quality or show things that are undesirable, it may disqualify the home.
Or don't show the key things that that home offers.
Right. So one of the things we do have our marketing specialists do at the Dekker Team is take a close-up of something that is a special feature. You know, that beautiful stone fireplace, you just don't want it buried in the back of the room. You actually want something narrowed in on that fireplace. We've got the luxury now to put as many pictures as we want on our own personal website because we've structured it that way. We can do what we want. And even on the multiple listing service that is syndicated, and even through the Keller Williams listing service that's syndicated to hundreds of other portals, we can put quite a few pictures today. So we get the luxury of doing close-ups of the major features and those things that will compel somebody to buy your home.
Awesome.
And making sure those things in the pictures are pristine, right? So it's good quality pictures, and we've got to start with a great product.
Yeah. So, I mean, that means what? Staging and cleaning and making sure it's got the right things in it.
Yeah, and staging maybe is a word I attempt not to use because it's really about preparing your home. It's not about setting a fake stage. And I think so often when we use that word, we're thinking about something that's not real.
Well, the reason I like the word a little bit.
Let's have another
debate.
Okay.
Is you wouldn't necessarily live that way. Meaning there's probably less things out. There's probably no family photos. There's certain things we take out in order to stage a home because you're not going to live that way. Right. But for the sale, it helps the buyer get into the perspective of this is a place I want to live.
Right. And so I would call it preparing your home for market.
Sure.
Getting it positioned so that it's easy for someone to come in and feel comfortable with it. So that would be a way to sell your home quickly.
Yeah.
And another, Ryan?
Well, it's got to smell nice.
It's got to smell nice and clean, actually.
Yeah.
And not over smelly.
Yeah, you don't want those things that spray at you every like 5 minutes and give you a big headache. Those aren't what we're looking for. But no, smell is, we talked about in the last show, it's incredible. It doesn't go to your thought processing, it goes to your emotions. So if you come into a house and it smells really bad, or even a little bit bad, instantly you have an emotional response, usually a negative one, towards this home. Whereas if it smelled nice, you normally have a positive. Like if it smells like cookies, you may get that feel of, oh, grandma's house. Smells are very important.
Even for those of us that don't really eat cookies anymore, there's still, I don't drink coffee, really, and at all. And yet the smell of fresh brewed coffee is still an inviting smell because it was something I smelled as a kid. You know, so those things from childhood, it's amazing the impact it has on when we walk into a home, and not a strong smell, because today we have so many people with sensitivity issues, so many people that just can't take, especially the artificial smells.
Yeah, I have certain clients that I would have to go through the house first if it smelled, and the client would sit in the car, and I would have to tell them if it was an okay house for them, and then they'd come in quickly, and that's if it smelled, because they just couldn't physically take it. It would make them sick.
Yeah, I've had clients like that too.
And so smells are really, really important, not just a good smell, but the quantity of that smell and how it's created.
Right. So the natural smells are way more advantageous. Not everybody loves the smell of vanilla, and yet a little bit of vanilla on your burner or in a little pan in your oven will still be, generally speaking, something that most people will be comfortable with, to give it just a warm, baked, comfortable, cozy. Clean is the other smell, and you want to be a little careful with how clean. Yes. I mean, because that's a very chemical smell, and although it conjures up feelings of clean, it also causes lots of people not to be able to breathe very well when it's too strong.
Absolutely.
So something comfortable and cozy that will just create...
Comfortable and cozy. Nice.
Ryan rubs off on me. He does voices all the time. He has since he was a little tiny guy, and now his kids are doing it. And if I spend too much time with Ryan and Otar, it comes out of my mouth, which is a shock.
It's a good thing.
Okay, we're going to say it's a good thing. So another way to sell your home quickly is targeted marketing content. And really what we're talking about there is creating a story for your home. Rather than having it sound like all the other 3-bed, 2-bath houses, how do we create, and this is what we do, it's not how do we do it, this is what's required to help sell your home fast. And that's create a story that's unique and special and specific to your property.
And the kind of buyer who wants that kind of property
is going to be attracted to that marketing. And somebody that isn't looking for that is not going to be attracted, and that's actually okay. It's actually more than okay. It's
good.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, because we want to get the right people. We don't want everyone coming to your house. I mean, there's no point. They're not going to buy it. We want the right people. So targeted marketing content's really, really important. And then another example of that is if, I'll just give you a real life example. So we'd sell a property that's in rough shape, like really rough shape, that some people wouldn't even want to go into rough shape. So if I said, oh, this beautiful home, make it your dream home, and you come in there, you're going to be really mad. But if I send it to you saying, hey, this home, it's in rough shape, but it's got great bones, it's got huge potential for either a multi-unit or a tear down, and you can build this. So we start talking specifically to the possibility of this property. Now we open it up to a whole new market of investors. Whereas if I said this is your dream home, well, now I'm marketing to people who want the dream home, and when they come in, it's not the dream home.
And they can't even envision it because it's so far gone.
Yes.
In terms of, right? And that's one that would even have great bones. I mean, you talked about a tear down, which is very different than a home with great bones. So we maybe crossed our wires a little bit there on the types of properties.
Yes.
And yet what we're talking about is just targeting the specific type of property And long copy that has a fair bit of story, you may not read all of it, and that's okay. Some people will. So actually, long copy that shares a story is actually, as long as it's well written and well spoken, which I just couldn't do there, as long as it's well written, is way more impactful than short, good copy. So long, great copy is better than short, great copy. And yet if you're going to write lousy copy, then let's keep it really short. So you want to target the best you can. And that's one of the things we specialize in, is targeting that marketing so it appeals to the person that wants that house. So if it doesn't have a big backyard, we say it doesn't have a big backyard. If it's across the street from Tim Hortons, we weave that into our marketing, because the person that wants Timmy's at their front door won't care that it's on a busy road. It offsets because the person that's not looking for the busy road, they come, and now the reason they don't want to buy it is it's on a busy road. So it's just really about getting the truth of the house out there. So even those things that may be perceived as not a positive to one person is a amazing positive to another person.
And I always find it interesting how some people market their home and some realtors market property saying this 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, well, it's already it's already there. You're just duplicating what you're saying. So why use that space for that? Why not use it for the story, for getting them excited about the property? Like, there's more you can do. There's more, yeah.
Right, because we're limited in space on most of the partner websites, and even on the MLS.ca and Realtor.ca and the different websites, even KWLS, there's a limit. So we'll put more on our website, and we've got to be really careful with the words.
Absolutely, it's very important.
And
so let's jump into our next one,
okay,
which is tied in, which is targeted marketing distribution.
Right.
So this isn't the content, this is how we get it out, who we get it out to, how do we target that, and why is it important?
Well, it's important because if I'm selling a commercial property that suits dentists or doctors, then that's who I want to get that in front of. I don't really need to get it in front of somebody that can't use that kind of property. So actually targeting our marketing efforts in a particular community or particular use of community makes all the difference.
And that's for residential too. It's not just commercial.
No, that was just an example.
Yeah,
you like examples.
I love examples. So with residential, I mean, we may need to go after military, young families, and what's another one that fits in there?
Well, it depends on what the property is.
Yeah, so there's it's not just one group you target, it's multiple groups.
Depends on the property.
And one of the bonus things we're doing now is we're also taking our regular properties and we're distributing that to investors in a way that they can receive it. So with the numbers, rate of return, with the cash flow potential, with everything wrapped in. And so we're taking regular homes and showing them off as investment properties. So now we're hitting not just the regular targeted markets, but also the potential investors.
Right, which is fantastic. So that's something special and unique that Ryan has spent the last, almost 3 years now, creating and developing and working with us, and we're absolutely endorsing it, and it's part of the Dekker Team offering, and it's really providing that investor insight up front so you don't have to fight through it and figure it out.
And that's for the buyers as well as the sellers.
Right.
But in this case, we're talking about listing it. And so there's the ability to show it off to buyers, and they don't have to come and say, well, is this a good investment? Could this be a good? No, it either is or it isn't. It's right in front of me.
And that's fantastic. Another way to sell your home quickly is access to the property.
Really? It's important to go get in?
Yeah, it's important to get in.
Okay.
So not having to restrict the times of showings any more than absolute necessary. I mean, I certainly appreciate when a family has, a couple little kids and they want to go to bed at 7 and then there's a showing request at 8:30, 3 nights in a row, that can be really difficult because it's not fun to live with crabby kids the next day. And yet access to the property is highly important because you don't know when that buyer that books that 8:30 showing is the one that would buy your house. And if they find another one that suits them, they may not be back on another day. They may not come at 5 o'clock, or that's dinner time anyway, but they may not come on a Saturday morning or whatever instead. They may just not come. So having easy access to the property, and so we do use lock boxes. They're very secure. We've got lots of ability to keep them safe from others breaking into them, and yet being able to provide adequate and varied. We still generally will be able to provide 24-hour notice most of the time.
Yeah, it's more like if you've got not more. It's also about if you have an out-of-town buyer and they're only here for 3 days and they got to pick their home and you can't get them in during the workday because you're at work, for sale by owner, something like that. So it's really important that you can get them the access when they need it, or they're going to buy something else.
Right.
And so that makes the house sell a lot faster.
It does. And another one that is fascinating is resolving major issues that might be in the house. And when I say major, they may not be major. They may, in terms of the cost, they could just be major in the eyes or mind of a buyer. So it could be a safety issue, it could be a fire issue, or it could just be something that can become a challenge, an insurance nuisance, things that become a nuisance. The more of those we can get resolved in advance of launching it into the market, the better. Yeah,
the reality is homes are a piece of property and they deteriorate and they're not all perfect. And so there's almost always going to be some sort of issues. And so if we can limit the amount of issues, it's normally not a big deal.
Right.
But if we don't limit those issues, then we can get an offer and then it can fall apart. And then we can get an offer and that can fall apart. And then you've been on the market a couple of months and people are asking, well, what's wrong with it? Well, there's a few things wrong with it and that's why it's not selling. And so that's where that question starts to come into people's minds, as we talked about last time. It really is important that you resolve the major issues and even as many small ones as you can before you even get on market.
Right. And so an example of a few of those would be, recently I went to see a home seller about a property, and she had decided, given her area, that she would call in a couple of local realtors, and I had helped them a long time ago when they bought and sold in another area, so they called me to also come in and take a look and make sure I could serve them well in that community, which was great. I appreciated the opportunity. And what I recognized is, although I was, I think, the fourth person in, no one, and it was a Century home, so there was already telltale signs that there may be some concerns that were hidden that would not be known to the homeowner, right? And so I said, well, can I go up into the attic? Can I go into the basement? Can I just take a look at those areas where I might determine if there is any potential things that might come up as yellow or red flags for a potential buyer? And as I went up, underneath some batting in the attic, I identified that there was, in fact, vermiculite. And vermiculite may or may not have asbestos. You don't know that. And yet you can have it tested. And even when you have it tested, you're not positive, because unless you test every bag that was originally put in, you don't get the true answer. So no matter how well you handle it, it becomes a point of concern for a buyer and difficult to get insurance. And so we're able to address that, have it removed, have it done properly, have new insulation put in. And so it was not even a discussion point. And then there was a few things with the plumbing, and nobody had noticed those. So being able to look at those things realistically so we can just get them handled so that the home can go ahead and sell with no hitches.
And those kind of hitches can cause the property either not to sell or to sell for much less, or to get a bunch of offers and then fall apart and then not be able to get any offers. So it's really important, really, really important that we resolve those issues.
Well, it won't sell fast either, because isn't that what this show's about?
That's what this is about. It's not just about selling, it's about selling it fast.
Right. And fast isn't because we want you to walk away from money. We talked about that on the other show that we did a little bit ago. And that show really talked about why you want to sell fast. And it's not because you want to sell it for the most money, and that's really what's tied to selling fast. And then another great way to sell your home fast is make sure that the realtor you're working with has an exhaustive online presence.
Yeah, it's huge. So as we talked about at the beginning of this, many, many people are finding their homes online.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the MLS is amazing, and that's great. We need that because a lot of people do look that way. There's so many other ways. There's so many other ways to attract buyers. I've had a bunch of clients who come to me and they're like, hey, Ryan, we've been looking on our own for a little while and we think we found a home. We'd like to work with you. Let's go. And so they didn't even get the chance. I mean, we still did the MLS and everything with them before they bought to make sure they knew what they were buying and what's out there. However, they had chosen that home based on
the online presence.
And so online presence is key. It's huge.
And it's something we have a full-time person that's what they're here to do, is to create online presence for our sellers' properties so that we can get them in front of the right targeted audience and with the right targeted description and with the right photos. And that's the part that we can make sure is done.
Yeah.
And then really as a homeowner, ensuring that the pictures are going to look great because it's prepared well and that it's maintained well so that all the major issues, and even if there's a numerous number of smaller issues, those are addressed in advance, and then providing easy access to the property, making sure it smells beautiful. So we kind of share in who has the primary onus or focus on those things to ensure a home sells fast. And if we tick off all those boxes, unless it's one of those rare ones that we talked about that just requires a very, very unique buyer.
No, we didn't talk about one of the key ones.
What?
And that's pricing. It's key. So we didn't talk about pricing because it's kind of obvious. It's got to be priced right. These are more things and ways to sell your home fast. However, pricing.
Well, if I overprice my property, it's just going to...
You got to price it right.
Right. All these things being done right will still cause people to look at it, get excited about it, and not buy it.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of a given that we want to put it in the realm of where it ought to be. And in this market, which is primarily a buyer's market, you don't want to overprice it because you actually get less. So that's a conversation for an entirely different show.
That's a whole show right
That's not probably 3 shows.
Okay, 3 shows.
And so we've got some great condominiums that we would love to talk to you about just briefly. If you're looking for any style of condominium property, whether it's a terrace home, we've got a beautiful one right in town. We have also a great little 1-bedroom right in the heart of the city, which is beautiful on the main level, right by the bus stop. So really easy convenience to everywhere you need to go.
And I ran the numbers on that one yesterday, and they're quite good for an investor.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they?
Yeah, I was quite impressed. Yeah.
And then we have another one that actually is only $164,000. So these all range from sort of $164,000 to $317,900. If you're interested, and there's lots of others out there, if there's anything you're looking for in a condominium style property, give us a call because there's really great options out there today for buyers, lots of selection and really good selection. So thanks for joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate, and connect with us if you have questions. If you want to be featured, because I think I offered that on this show, you want to be with us and have a conversation on air, that would be awesome. You can reach us at 613-860-4663, 860-4663.
And if you want to buy or sell a house,
that
would also be a good reason to call us.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye for now.